the COVID pandemic has had on tourism. But how would you feel about doing a walking tour of the city? A walking tour of the city with a difference. Over the past few months, Derry Dander's walking tours have been working with a company that produces city audio tours. It's called VoiceMap. So how does it all work? Well, my colleague Amanda Williams spoke to tour guide David Douglas, and he told her all about it.
I had been approached during the lockdown by this company called VoiceMap, and they would do audio tours in lots of cities throughout the world. And initially I didn't actually sign up because I was a bit concerned that, my bread and butter business is very much real walking tours. So I didn't necessarily want to stop my own business. But then I sort of read up a bit more about it, and there's a demographic of people that don't actually do walking tours anyway. They just would walk. I would see them. They would walk around the walls with a guidebook and doing it themselves or listening to something. So I thought, well, perhaps there's an angle in that. And then after the lockdown ended and the real tour started, I was very conscious that there's a lot of people who had really said, I want to go on one of your tours, David, but they're just not confident to do so. They would like to do it, but they don't want to do it as part of a group, and obviously to offer it as a private tour might be too expensive for them. So then I thought, well, I'll go ahead with the VoiceMap app, and that'll be that offered. So that's useful in terms of people to do a self-guided tour, because as you reach certain points, the next bit of the commentary triggers, and so therefore it should guide them through the part of the city that we're doing it. But it also can be played on a continuous play basis, so someone anywhere in the world can sit and listen and do a tour of the Derry walls. Just instead of taking 40 minutes to 50 minutes when you're walking, it sort of plays through in about 25 minutes. So hopefully that will also encourage people to visit again in the future when they can.
So if I was sitting then in New York in my front room, and I thought, I've never been there, I'd like to see it, I could actually virtually walk around the city's walls.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. The way it works is, now, it's the most effective if you're actually there because the GPS is triggering it. But you can put it in continuous play, and as you reach certain points then I also have taken some pictures. So you're having a picture, say, of Coward's Bastion, or a picture of Double Bastion, or, First Derry, Apprentice Boys Hall. All those sort of things will come up on their screen as well when they're doing that.
And what kind of feedback have people been giving you about this? Have you spoken to anyone that's tried it yet?
Yes, I have a couple of friends who've tried it, and they're very positive. Now, to be honest with you, it's very much a new product. I only really published it just at the weekend there. So it's still very much waiting for a bit of feedback as well.
And what about the actual real-life walking tours? How are they going at the moment?
Well, they're certainly coming on. We obviously have no international business, but in the last couple of weeks we had a lot of staycationers. I've had a lot of guests coming up from the south of Ireland, particularly the middle of Ireland, which you didn't tend to get before, that had never come up here before, and they're very much impressed with it. And then a lot of staycationers just over from Scotland and England as well. So that's unfortunately going to be the market this year, and probably much more quieter in terms of tours. People don't want to do your big 30, 40 people. They're walking around as family groups.
Yeah.
But that's where we are with the current pandemic, and we just have to make the best of it.
And how are you finding it as a professional tour guide, David?
Well, initially it was more stressful, I have to say, because you have to go through a lot more health and safety briefings with people. You have to obviously find out if they're from the same family group, if they can socially, or they have to socially distance. Obviously, I have to socially distance from them. I have to have hand sanitizer. I would also carry a supply of masks. I have a thermometer gauge as well. I always ask people, if you're carrying any symptoms, you can't go on the tour. But I would have the thermometer available as well. It's just, I always carried a rucksack full of stuff, if people wanted to ask questions. I always had a couple of notes to maybe show them detail, but now I'm carrying a lot more health and safety stuff around with me as well.
I'm sure you wouldn't have foreseen that 12 months ago now that things would have changed that way. On the virtual tour, this new voice map one, do you think is that the future of tours?
I think it's an alternative. I don't like to think it's complementary. My own feeling is part of the fun for tours for me, and I'm sure the other guides in the city, is the interaction with people. Because no tour is the same. Somebody asks you a question or puts a different slant on it. And also, each tour, you learn from people because they're saying, oh, my granny was from here and she did this. And you're constantly learning. So I think it will develop a bit like, internet shopping is much more prevalent than real shopping. But I don't think it will replace tours, full physical tours.
And as you say, you can't beat that real interaction when you're hearing those beautiful personal stories that people bring with them.
Yes, that's exactly it. And to me, that's the love of it. Each tour is different, and I get a buzz from that aspect of it.
So there we have David Douglas. He was chatting to Amanda Williams about technology, bringing an extra bonus to the city walking tours, and the more visitors we see coming back to do that, the better. Coming up, the COVID pandemic has